So it's been a while. I have a lot of babies in here. I have been dealing with French Moult. First time, and I wanted to share what I've learned. French Moult's a virus called the polyoma virus. It hits mostly parakeets, but it can also affect lovebirds, cockatiels, and a few other things. It's always been presented to me as like the boogeyman of budgie breeders. But what I've learned is, first of all, pretty much everybody that breeds budgies has it in their aviaries. And it's kind of like the chicken pox in that once birds get it, they have immunities to it and they don't ever get it again, and they can pass those immunities down to their chicks. So my birds did not, by and large, my birds did not have it and had not been exposed to it, so it swept through my entire flock. I lost a couple of babies. So here's the symptoms. Starts with a bout of really watery diarrhea that only lasts about 48 hours, and then goes into a period of anorexia where the bird doesn't want to eat and will drop a huge amount of weight. That lasts about 3 to 5 days. Most birds live through it, some don't. Then after the sickness passes, if the bird is a youngster, if it's a baby, it will then drop feathers. It can hit babies, pinkies in the nest can get it, and they will die if they're less than 20 days old. If they get it and survive, if they get it young and survive, there's a phase of it that the feathers will grow in wrong. They're all kind of twisted and look like the tip of a paintbrush instead of like a feather. And then they will all fall out, and the bird will be completely naked, and then it will die. If it doesn't die, it's rare, but sometimes they don't die. It's probably better to put it down because there's not a lot of places in the world for a bird like that. If you can find somebody who wants it, fine, but recognize it will also be a carrier all of its life, and any other bird that it ever comes in contact with is going to get sick. So, like I said, not really a place in the world for that. I did put down a few of my babies, largely because of the suffering, and for a couple of them because they clearly had the worst case of it and were not going to ever become normal chicks. But out of my 40 chicks that I hatched out this spring, and then once I realized that I had it going through the flock, I broke up my last pairs and didn't breed them. So controlling French Moult. It also went all the way through all of my adult birds. Well, a lot of my adult birds who had never had it. So I saw them go through the diarrhea and the anorexia and then come out the other side of it. Adult birds do not tend to lose feathers over this. I do have a few adult birds that are looking pretty scruffy right now, and that's because it's molting season, not the French Moult. Adult birds will clear the virus from their bodies completely and become not carriers. They carry antibodies for it. They can pass it on to their chicks by feeding them in the nest. So I've kind of gotten to the place where I'm like, okay, I want everybody in my flock to get this so that they'll have the antibodies. It does mean that as I'm going forward, I will occasionally get a chick that comes down with the French Moult, and that chick will act as a vaccine for all the other birds. It will expose them, they'll get their antibodies brushed up and into shape, and we'll all be good. So the fact that I did not have it in my flock beforehand meant that it hit me really hard, but in the future I will probably end up with 1 or 2 chicks every year that have it. I have kept most of my chicks that, even though most of them have lost their feathers, because they grow back. A lot of times, in fact, I've always heard, now what I've always been presented with is they'll lose their primary flight feathers and their 2 long tail feathers and they will never grow back. I am finding that to be not true at all. They lose their primary flight feathers and then they grow them back. So I have a bunch of babies down here, if you'll see, missing tails but starting to grow them back. Missing flight feathers but starting to grow them back. The little blue guy back there lost everything, and I can see his tail feathers coming in right now. See that? And I can see the tips of new flight feathers coming in. So by and large, most of these babies will end up looking like perfectly normal birds, and they'll have wonderful immunities to pass on to their chicks. So what it really comes down to is it was like the boogeyman, and then it showed up, and all of a sudden I was like, you know what, this is not that bad of a thing. It's like the chicken pox. Everyone's going to get it. Everyone's going to get immunities from it, and they can pass those immunities on to their chicks. Now, in order to keep it from exploding again, what I have to do is, it's recommended, do not breed continuously. Breed in the spring and in the fall and be done with it. So I do that anyway. So I will stick with that, and hopefully it will just, like I said, it will show up in a chick every now and then, but it shouldn't be too often or too long lasting. I have a couple of birds with quill mites in here. Fluffy has been chewing off her feathers for months now. I think I finally found the solution, which is the quill mites, you can drown them by putting oily stuff on them. So what I've been doing is once a week I catch her and I put cortisone gel on her. You can buy it at the drugstore. It's pretty cheap, and you see she's starting to grow wing feathers in, and she's not chewing them off. The cortisone stops the itching, and the gel drowns the mites. And she seems to be making a recovery, although clearly I'll have to be doing this for quite a while. You see those feathers coming in now? She had chewed them all off, and she's starting to grow new ones. Another bird that I had that did the same thing was, where is she? Oh, no, that's not her. Oh, I don't see her. Oh, there she is. See this blue girl back here? That's Hera. And she had chewed off all of her wing feathers and such, and she is growing them back now too. If you can see the long feathers back there. She only has 2 or 3, but, it's a place to start. In the meantime, I try and keep hay in the bottom of the cage. It's time to clean it out again so that when featherless birds take a dive, they hit the hay and they bounce, and they don't hurt themselves. So, but by and large, the featherless birds learn to use the walk-ups. This is what all the babies that lost their flight feathers are using right now. See this little guy right here? He's growing his flight feathers back in again. I see the tips coming out. Tail still isn't there, but he's in time. So anyway, French Moult, not such a big deal. I did treat birds that had the diarrhea with electrolyte solution to help carry them through it, but as I said, I didn't really lose it. I lost no adult birds and only a couple of baby birds that didn't seem to be able to pull through it. They weren't quite old enough when they got it. So that's the French Moult. And I think we're pretty much done. It's just now waiting to see how many babies are going to grow all their feathers back. And the way it's looking, pretty much all of them are. So, good news.